Welcome on in, everybody. This will be season 7. This will be episode number 10 of the Outlap F1 podcast. Last leg of the triple header. My God, we actually got to the end of this thing. 5 races in 6 weeks to start the season. But we are here, God dang it. You have found the Outlap F1 podcast. It's Andy, and I'm along with Cody tonight. Cody, how's it hanging, sir? One more to go before a little break.
Yeah, it's kind of like a wishy-washy feeling. On one hand, it's like I've gotten so much F1 in the next few weeks, it almost might feel nice to take a little break. But at the same time, I'll get to the end of the season and I won't have that feeling anymore. So I got to get it in while we can.
Well, we got plenty of racing to go. We're gonna have our fill, that's for sure. This is the end of just the first stretch. Then we actually get to see what all the upgrades start to really dig into that and see what happens. We've got some teams bringing stuff already. We already got some declarations there, so we'll get into that a little bit as well. If you have found our show, as always, welcome along. We are glad that you are here. You can find us on Blue Sky. We are newly minted over there, trying to put out our content, our live tweets of qualifying, or live tweet. It's not the right word. Live coverage of qualifying and some of the sessions as well. X, formerly Twitter, we still do live coverage of qualifying there too. But if you want to interact with us on X, that'd be cool too. Instagram, Discord, Reddit, and of course here on YouTube at Outlap F1 Podcast is the place for all of that. If you are enjoying what you're seeing and you like what you're hearing, you can, if you're on YouTube, you can click a like or a subscribe button so you get alerted to whenever we post our content. If you're on your favorite podcasting app, a 5-star review would help us out a lot. Why do people ask you to do those things? Well, it's actually really simple. It helps us get a little bit better in search results if someone is searching for similar type of content. So it helps us get our stuff to you that much quicker. So if you are interested in it and you want to do that, that's why people ask you to do that. You can email the show as always. I'm going to give you the where everything, the chat now, I think is working, but I think where it forwards to is outlapf1@gmail.com. So we know we will definitely get it if you send it to that address. Thank you so much to our continued supporters who continue to support the show. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much to Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to become a member of what we call the hashtag Outlap F1 Nation, get a shout out at the beginning of every episode. You can see our anchor page in our show notes. It does ask for a small little donation. Why do we ask for that? Well, it's to help us keep our technology as relevant as we can, helps us pay for this wonderful, beautiful recording platform that we're coming to you on, and enables us to keep us doing all of those fun and cool things, trying to keep the show as relevant and make it better for you as we continue to move on. All right, the particulars now out of the way. Couple things we wanted to make sure we talked about. We didn't get a real chance to talk about it because the preview last week happened, and we're in the middle of this triple header. 2 big stories that happened even over the course of the Bahrain weekend we wanted to touch on. One, we talked about it a couple weeks ago that they were going to be this huge engine V10 engine summit. That this story we've been following, and it's been percolating. It's been gaining momentum for a couple reasons. One, nobody is seemingly very, very thrilled about the 2026 power unit regulations. It seems like everybody's a little nervous about what it's, one, going to do to potentially the racing, and 2, how viable is this technology path that we've gone down to road relevance? Because what we're also seeing is a push amongst even car manufacturers to say, well, we like hybrids. The hybrids are nice. They're cool. They're also a bit of a pain to manufacture. So if now sustainable fuels have come along, and we're also trying to still stay road relevant and make ourselves, on the cutting edge, and F1 being the pinnacle of motorsport that it always is, does it make sense to at least think about, at some point, going back a little bit, going forward by going back to maybe a V10 formula with sustainable fuel to honor our net carbon zero pledge that we're all trying to do? Or does it make sense to continue down the hybrid path? So the engine manufacturers, the teams all kind of got together in Bahrain. This was a meeting also kind of sponsored by the head of the FIA, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, who we're going to talk about a little bit in the next story for sure. But they had this big meeting, and if you're a fan, if you were hoping that they were going to ditch the 2026 regs, sorry, we're definitely going to have those regs for sure in 2026. But it does look like your dream of potentially a V10 normally aspirated engine on sustainable fuels might not be dead. It might be actually coming a little earlier than you think. So, Cody, you kind of read the notes. I think I read some of the notes from the meeting. What you got on this one?
Yeah, I think it was a long shot that we were going to be going to something like just a V10 in the next even few seasons. So, yeah, we did have 3 votes no to any changes to the engine regulations. Those no's came from Mercedes, Audi, and Honda. And as we discussed before, you could only have one of those engine manufacturers vote no to have the rules go through. So, plenty for no. It's a little disappointing, but like I said, expected. Like, they've put up so much money and research into these engines already. They have to at least give them a shot. Now, it is a little concerning, as you said, some of the things that we've heard about the quality of these engines, that they're not particularly powerful is one thing that I've heard. I also heard the same thing about how they start to want to recharge before they even get to the end of the main straight in Italy. So, yeah, it's a little concerning for the moment. Also concerning is, in the past when we've gone to new engine regulations, like in 2014, one team got way ahead. I did read that one of the big things that came out of this meeting, though, is that there will be some sort of concessions given to teams to play catch up if they're behind on their engine development. So hopefully at some point during the engine regs, we'll get closer to some kind of parity where more of the engines will be fair with each other. I don't think that that's going to come into term for this first season. We're just going to see what happens and who's got the best engine for this first one. But yeah, so hope of going to V10s, losing the hybrid, just doing sustainable fuel. That could still happen at some point down the line, but it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, it looks like the earliest they want to potentially change, because this set of engine regs was originally scheduled to go from 2026 to 2031. It was a 5-year commitment for basically the 50-50 ICE versus hybrid, with the other half of the power coming from the hybrid formula. And what was interesting was, you mentioned it, what happens if one team gets out ahead? The original plan was to basically kind of do what they did with this set of engine, which was to homologate everything, close off really the performance development, and focus more on just reliability. So what you ended up with, we've talked about it on this show many times. When's the last time we had anything about an engine failure at DNF due to that? It's been a bit of a time. And the other thing that we've noticed is you no longer have the bump that you used to get in performance from putting in a fresh engine. So you could run these things 6, 7, 8, 9 races now, and they still kick out the same amount of performance and energy that they do right when they first go in. So we've achieved, because we've closed off all the performance windows and we homologated everything, we've achieved a real high level of engine parity, because it really doesn't matter. I don't think anybody's really focused on what your power unit is. The other thing that what this formula may bring in is, who's your oil supplier? And I'm sure that's going to be something that no team or nobody's going to want to highlight, like, oh, Mercedes is using Petronas and McLaren is using some sort of British Petroleum, engine oil and lubrication formula. And you can see the difference in performance, even though they're both using Mercedes engines. I don't think this is where anybody wants us to go. I don't think this is where they want us to focus. So what they kind of agreed to is some sort of a framework to say, if there is a power unit manufacturer that comes in and is struggling, think Ford. Honda, to a certain extent, is nervous about this, but they're keeping it pretty close to the vest. Think Audi. Audi is definitely very nervous about it because this is why they all came in. This is why they voted kind of the way that they did. They want to have a system in place to be able to still develop for performance while at the same time, trying to make reliability as sound as it is now. So what I think you're going to see, this is me speculating now, I do think you're still going to see some form of a token system where you're going to have, okay, each manufacturer gets X amount of tokens, maybe after the first 6 races of the season. And, if you can, if the results are being like we've said before, if it's all Mercedes power in the first 10 spots and everybody else is not even close to scoring a point, you're going to see in season some form of a token system, I think, implemented to allow these other teams to develop in season to try to get them caught up. I think that's the commitment. I think that's what everybody was the most nervous about going into this thing. If our worst fears are confirmed and the racing is really bad and the field is so spread out, you may see an early abandonment of this package by, let's say, 2029, which would be 2 years earlier. That would give everybody enough time to, 1, select a new formula, and 2, begin to go down a development path and set up all the infrastructure that's necessary to have all that kind of stuff happen. So, everybody that came out of it felt good about it. Nothing concrete got codified or anything like that, and that always makes me nervous. We are less than a year away from seeing what these things are going to look like, and we're still debating the rules. Makes me a little nervous, especially in engine land when development, 6 months is like a blink of an eye in the engine development world. So, that does make me a little nervous. I did read one very troubling article that said, yeah, even the Mercedes engines could be trying to harvest down the straight in Monza, and that's not good for anybody. But let's not try to read too much into rumors, because I think, everybody's got their own agendas going into those types of things when they write those things. So let's see what it looks like. Let's see what testing looks like. If testing looks like a complete disaster, you're going to hear, a token system or something coming up really, really, really fast. Mm-hmm. I think everybody is happy with where for the most part, where the competitive nature of the grid is. They don't want to mess with that. So if this does take us down a path where it looks like there's one team 45 seconds down the road ahead of another, they're going to take steps, it looks like, to try to prevent that. So that, I think, is good. I think everybody's going into it with the same types of ideas. You don't see the cadres, and you don't see everybody trying to get their own little bits of what they wanted to get out of it type of scenario happening. It looks like everybody's actually talking about the common good, which is weird and kind of refreshing for F1, because they call it for the Piranha Club for a reason. But Cody, any other thoughts?
No, just that, again, it did go in the direction that we all thought it might, but it's not like V10s is completely dead and gone idea. It's just still being kicked down the road for a couple more years at least.
Yeah, like I said, the dream is not dead. I'm still holding out. I have to kind of say, I want that to be where we end up, but I really don't want it to be because we ended up having something painful to have to run through to get there.
Yeah, the racing was so bad for 3 years that we had to bail.
Aston Martin was so far down the road. Careful.
I'm sure Fernando Alonso would love that.
Fernando Alonso would love that. And just, Adrian, I did read the official thing that said Adrian Newey is only working on 2026. He is not going to be touching the 2025 car. Mm-hmm. So all you Aston Martin fans, he's where he's supposed to be. But before we hop into our track facts and our Grand Prix proper, there was another story that broke literally 5 hours after we wrapped up recording in true Outlap F1 podcast fashion. We mentioned how bad of a weekend the FIA had. And that was the on-track part that we were focused on. There was a whole nother level of drama going on off-track. Mohammed bin Sulayman's basically right-hand guy, Robert Reed, had resigned just before the start of the weekend. And there's an article that just came out, I think today. He finally explained why, and he gives this statement, and this statement was absolutely scathing. Like, there's no transparency in this organization. It was literally the equivalent of, like, I'm walking out the door and I'm dropping all of my secrets as I'm walking out the door, and, you know, pulling up my middle finger as I'm running out and trying to break everything is along with it. So Robert Reed, who was, I forget what his title was, but it was basically like the almost basically
Vice
like
president of FIA.
Yeah, he was basically the right-hand guy. And known as a straight shooter. You know, here's another perfectly qualified person somehow finding themselves on the outside. And he kind of expounded as to why he chose to leave and why he chose to leave when he did. And these are just some of the quotes that I pulled out of this article. It's scathing. Quote, 1, I would never ask anyone to put themselves in what they feel is an uncomfortable position, be it through a letter of support or social post showing clear endorsement, as I don't feel it would be fair to do so. From other quarters, the silence regarding his departure has been deafening. As I said in my statement, my decision to resign was not about personalities or politics. It was about principles. I took on this role with a clear mandate to help lead a transparent, accountable, and member-led federation. Those are 3 words I don't think we've associated with the FIA in a while. Mm-hmm. Eventually, I had no choice but to seek external counsel, external legal advice and support. Only then did I receive a response, but unfortunately, it lacked the clarity and rigor I had hoped for. I was told in broad terms that the governance process was sound and there was no legal risk. I'll expound on what he's talking about there. But no evidence or explanation was offered to support those assurances. As someone accountable to the membership and exposed to personal liability, that was simply not acceptable. So the big tipping point, and it actually doesn't have anything to do with F1. The FIA for, I think, the 2025 season is assuming the role of promoter for, I want to say it's the WRC, which is the World Rallycross Championships. That is usually kind of a no-no in the European Union, where that's one of the reasons why, even when it was Bernie Ecclestone and Max Mosley, despite the fact that they were kind of really buddy-buddy and in good relationship with, they were in really good relationship with each other at that point, the EU wanted clear-cut responsibilities in the court systems and said, FIA can enforce the rules, race promoters and FOM, you do all the race promotion. In the case of the WRC, the FIA is doing both. They're promoting the races under the FIA's flag, and they're administering all the rules and being the referees for it. So there's an inherent conflict of interest here. And apparently the fact that Robert Reed has brought it up several times and never got a response, and then when he finally went public with it, all of a sudden found himself on the outside looking in. Now, the other part of this is, what is it, maybe 5-6 months ago, we did a story where, and we thought it was really weird at the time, where, like, in order to be in, to get admittance into an FIA, like, group meeting, you had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which basically said anything that gets talked about within these meetings, you can't go, complaining to the press about. Well, lo and behold,
cool.
Now you have a conflict of interest, and you're going to be talking about something that, according to Robert Reed, he feels pretty strongly about, that we shouldn't be doing. And the only way to get in is to sign this NDA. And according to what this article says on motorsport.com, he was going to sign the NDA. He wanted to run it by an attorney to make sure that it was okay that he was not, signing his life rights away here. And they still would not let this guy in, like I said, the second in command, into this meeting. They did the whole meeting without him. And that started the whole, why aren't you returning my calls types of situation. This is, the more detail I read on this, the worse it gets. And MBS is up for election. I don't know how he survives it. I really don't. But Cody, what's your thought on all of this?
Oh, that it just reflects really poorly on the FIA, as a lot of things have reflected really poorly on the FIA since Mohammed bin Salem has been in charge. It seems like every season we've got some kind of big story about how they're doing something shady, or they're doing something that goes against the drivers, or they're being nitpicky over really asinine stuff like jewelry and swearing. And this now seems to be branching beyond annoyance into actual, like, is this legal waters, which is a little freaky. Hopefully there's still time to right the ship. But I just don't want to see it get too ugly and get in the way of the sport, because that's why I watch. I don't care too much about the politics that's going on in the background. I just want to see them go race and have a good time and have it be fair and fun and easy to access. But it seems like this kind of crap just keeps coming to the forefront, and I really wish it was just easy to deal with.
Well, we'll see in a few months if it is easier to deal with if they get a new president. But it just has seemed, whether it was the jewelry thing or the swearing gate, we're focused on, it seems, all the wrong things. And the two things that have made me have been most upsetting to me, and it's just because I've heard this guy talk before, and was the quick and the couple things. One, Johnny Herbert was an FIA steward, and I thought he was doing a perfectly fine job. Why he's out of a job at the FIA when he's fully qualified? He's not on TV anymore. To me, felt arbitrary and a bit capricious. The bigger one for me was the firing of Tim Mayer. And if you've ever heard an interview with Tim Mayer, this was a guy who literally lived, breathed rules and fairness, and was the straightest shooter you could ever want to meet. He did an interview where he talks about all the sensors and stuff that they put into Vegas to make sure they knew where all the cars were, during that whole process, and what a cool machine that they had developed. And he was an FIA rules nerd. And you need FIA rules nerds to do this type of thing. And the fact that he was so nondescriptly just shoved out the door, when what he was doing was he was trying to advocate for Coda after that race. There is a stewards documented out there. Coda got a big fine because there were a bunch of morons who decided to jump the fence and do the track invasion and not go through the official gates. So it was the same thing that kind of happened to the Australian Grand Prix organizers. Well, Tim Mayer was doing the appeal on behalf of Coda because Coda really didn't know what arena it was in. So they went and they got the most straight shooter guy to advocate for him. And then right after they suspended part of the fine, all of a sudden now Tim Mayer's out because he dared question the ruling of the FIA. And it's like, come on, why do you gotta be like this? It's not fun. This is not a fun story for me to be digging into, and I hate this type of stuff. And I'm with you. I would much rather talk about the first sector in Bahrain and who did what in the hairpin versus this. But it seems like we keep coming back to more and more of this, and there's a common denominator at work in all of this, and maybe it's just we're more apt to look at it. Maybe it's a social media thing, that there's a lot more information that comes out about this kind of stuff than there used to be. But regardless, it does feel like ever since MBS got elected, it has not been just normal operating procedure at the FIA. We'll see where this goes. We'll see if this, changes the membership's views. But his second lieutenant is now gone. We've gone through bunches of race directors. We've gone through lots of stewards who've had to quit. There's a reason. So, yeesh. But anyway, we'll continue to follow. If anything does come out of all this, we will obviously bring it to you. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll re-rack after all of that. We'll come back. We'll get into our Jeddah track facts, because that's where we're going this weekend. We will preview the weather. I got 3 letters for you. H-O-T. It is going to be hot. But we'll talk about exactly how hot and who that might favor. And then after that, we're going to hop into what we think is going to happen over the course of the weekend in our prediction segment. So come on back. We'll hop into the Jeddah weekend in just a minute. All right, welcome back on in. This is season 7, episode number 10 of the Outlap F1 podcast. We are previewing the Saudi Arabian GP. You've found the Outlap F1 podcast. You've got Andy, and I'm along with Cody tonight. And we're going to hop into our track facts brought to us by the good folks at Pirelli Motorsport. So, Cody, tell us about the Jeddah Corniche circuit.
All right. This week in Formula One goes to the Jeddah Corniche circuit located in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Each lap of the circuit consists of 27 turns, and the number of laps for the Grand Prix is 50. Length of the track is 6.174 kilometers, or 3.836 miles. And the tire selection from Pirelli this year is actually softer than last year. This year they're going with the C3, C4, and C5 tire compounds. And the Pirelli track characteristics, all out of 5, are a 2 for traction, 3 for braking, 4 for lateral load, 3 for tire stress, 4 for track evolution, a 4 for asphalt grip, a 2 for asphalt abrasion, and a 2 for downforce. The qualifying lap record was actually set last season by Max Verstappen, and that was with a 1 minute 27.472 seconds, while the race lap record, you got to go all the way back to 2021, that one was set by Lewis Hamilton with a 1 minute 30.734 seconds. Most wins at this track, there haven't been many yet, is going to go to Max Verstappen with 2 wins, and then it's a tie for second between Sergio Perez and Lewis Hamilton with 1 win apiece. I'm pretty sure that's actually all the races we've had here, so because of that, Red Bull holds the constructor wins lead with 3, and Mercedes has that 1 victory. What's the circuit like, Andy?
Oh boy, well, it's fast. It is very, very fast. It is touted as the fastest street circuit on the planet, and I think that's at least semi-accurate. I'm more concerned about the street circuit than the fact of the fact that it's fast. But average speeds around this circuit are said to be around 252 kilometers an hour. That is quicker than Silverstone, and only second on the calendar, only to Monza, which is also known as the Temple of Speed. So quite simply, it'll be the fastest street circuit ever on Formula One. That's what they say. The track will also feature the most corners on the calendar with 27, many of them quick, sinuous bends as the drivers wend their way along the Jeddah waterfront. And as for the weather this weekend, you can put the rain tires away. You don't have to worry about that because we're not going to see them. It's going to be hot. It's going to be hot during the day, and the question is going to be how much does it cool down for when we get to qualifying and when we actually get to the race. So I'm going to kind of give you the day/night temperatures. So for qualifying on Saturday, the high is going to be 93 at the height of the day. It's going to get the low is only expected to get down to 82. So that is significantly warmer than what we saw in Bahrain. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10. So not too wind affected. But for the race on Sunday, again, during the day, hot, northwesterly breeze with gusts up to 22 miles an hour during the day. But it will calm down a bit for the race. High during the day, 93. For the race on Sunday, clear skies, low of 81, so still quite toasty, but winds will be out of the northwest at 5 to 10. All right. So, yeah, I mean, this is that twisty, turny. I've seen the meme where you take a crinkled up belt and you throw it on the ground, and that's how they came up with the layout for this circuit. But it's a lot of fast corners. The walls are on you quick. Lance Stroll knows something about that. He ended up in the wall last year. There's been some horrific crashes. Mick Schumacher had just an absolute scary looking crash the first couple years we were here. So the walls are at you fast. They said it's Suzuka, but with walls right there. So, yeah, I mean, I do have an affinity for this place. I do think it's actually a pretty cool layout. I still yet to see how well it really races on Sunday, but for a qualifying lap, it's going to be a darn fun qualifying effort on Saturday to put this whole lap together because it requires a car that can do a lot of things. The quick, twisty corners, and then at the very end, this long straight followed by kind of a hairpin corner. So it's a very different corner than anything else that they go through on the whole lap. We've seen, especially even the 2021 the lap that we never knew how good it was. Max Verstappen coming to what was probably going to be the track, obviously the track record at the time. We never got to see the end of that lap. He's more than made up for it since then with some of his efforts. And last year, I think he was just dominant around here last year, to be quite honest with you. He was never even really close to being touched. When we get to the race podium, we'll explain why. Because it's things you will not see this year. That's probably that's for sure. But we will start as we hop into our predictions as to what we think is going to happen over the course of this weekend. We will start with the pole sitter. Cody, what do you have here? Who's going to take pole in Saudi Arabia?
I am on the Piastri hype train at the moment. He looked fantastic around Bahrain. He's had several very strong weekends so far. When he gets out front, he seems like he can run away with it. And I think there's a good shot he's going to be back out in front this time.
All right, locking in hottest driver right now in Formula One, Oscar Piastri. And I am in agreement with you. It is time I got on the Oscar Piastri hype train. After what I saw last week, and I was saying, woo, I think I'm paying attention. I am paying attention. We see you, Oscar. So I do think right now he is on form. He can take the pole. I want to see somebody take it away from him. I'm to that point. It was that good last time. So Oscar Piastri, take the pole. I agree as well. All right. So our lap time last year was that track record of 127.472 set by Max Verstappen. Do we see a new track record? We've seen some new ones already fall this season. Same surface, no resurfacing, but it is still a relatively young track. So all of that to deal with. You mentioned new tire compounds. That may have something to do with it. We are going to be a step softer than last year. So what does that do to the lap time? Cody, what's your thought?
I think we're going to go, we've been tracking a bit faster than last year, faster than I thought we would see. I think that we're going to see the softer tires probably balance out somewhat with the fact that the circuit is now getting more worn in. But I still think it's going to be around 0.8 of a second faster. So I've got a 1 minute, 26.666 seconds.
Ooh, that's an interesting number.
Yeah, I put in 126, and then I was like, I can't think of a good decimal, so I just kept clicking the same button.
All right. Well, if that comes in, I'll tip my cap if that one comes in. But anyway, I'm close to you. I've hopefully learned my lesson from last week. I can't go too fast. I thought they were really going to stretch something out of Bahrain. They didn't. But it is a softer tire compound, which makes me think that I am at least in the ballpark here. So I'm a little bit slower than you, but not by much. 126.858 is my prediction here. All right. So flipping over to now the race on Sunday, the 2024 podium was Max Verstappen taking a very dominant win. Sergio Checo Perez, this was when he was still scoring points. How long ago does this feel? P2, Red Bull 1-2. They looked absolutely unbeatable at this point of the season last year. Charles Leclerc coming home for Ferrari. This was the race where Ollie Behrman was deputizing for Carlos Sainz and coming home in front of, I think it was Lando Norris at the time, for 7th and 8th. So from what we thought we were going to have for a championship to what we ended up having for a championship was very, very different. So, but this is a place that Max likes. So Cody, what you got for a race prediction on Sunday?
Actually going in on the fact that Max likes this track, that he has done well here, that Red Bull has done well here, and that word is that Red Bull might be bringing some car upgrades to this race. So if those do show up and they do what they're supposed to do, I think you might see some improvement there. So I'm going full fanboy here, and I'm going with Max Verstappen gets another win, and then Piastri and Norris come in second and third to get both McLarens on the podium again.
All right, very good. I was joking with Cody in our little pre-discussion. I'm kind of referring when I'm talking about fanboy stuff. I refer to Max as a virus. He's just staying around. We can't shake him. As good as our car is, we cannot shake him. We can't seem to get rid of him because he's hanging around. And that's look. And I've said it before. I am enjoying watching Max extract every bit out of this Red Bull car. I always said you find out how good somebody is when they have a little bit of adversity. And what I'm finding out is Max is really, really good at what he does. So I definitely have a lot of respect for it. I do think he's going to be in the mix this weekend. I don't think we're going to have a repeat of what happened to Bahrain 1. It's a smoother surface that'll help the Red Bull out tremendously. They won't have the tire degs issues that they had before. 2, it's a pointier track. It's not as rear limited as what Bahrain is. It's much more front limited. So that sends to suit to Max's style. Also suits a little bit more to Lando Norris's style. But given all that, the form Oscar Piastri is on is just kind of on another level. So I'm going to say until somebody takes it from Oscar, I'm not going to go against Oscar. So I've got Oscar Piastri taking back-to-back wins. I do have Max Verstappen being in the mix, though. I've got him coming in P2. And I do think Lando will be around because the car is really good. I still think he's fighting through some of those issues. So I'm not going to put any more extra pressure on him, at least in my predictions. So I've got Lando coming home in P3. All right. So our fastest lap and our driver, the 2024 fastest lap was set by Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. It was a 1:31.632. Cody, what you got for fastest lap, and who do you got doing it?
Still sticking to the fanboy story here. I got Max Verstappen getting fastest lap, so I guess that would mean he'd be getting fastest lap and the win, just missing out on a pole.
I was going to say, you've got almost a whole smash here.
I don't know if he'll go that smash, but I'm putting it all out there and hoping that something sticks to the wall here. But I got Max Verstappen taking fastest lap, and I got him doing it with a 1:31.333.
You got a 0.666 and a 0.333. All right, I like it. All right, multiples of 3. 3 by 3 by 3. There's a book that somebody wrote about 3 in sports. So I'll have to find it. But how many instances of 3 you get. And the more you look at it in sporting terms, the weirder it gets. Like, it's kind of crazy how many different derivatives of 3 are really in all our modern sports, but pretty cool. But that all having been said, who do I think is going to go fastest? I'm leaning into the Oscar Piastri hype train and the form. I'm buying into it right now. So I'm going to say, again, somebody takes it away from him. Let's see what he does. Oscar Piastri take the fastest lap because of the clean air. That's where it's at. And I think he's going to do a 1:31.587. So a little slower. I'm going a little slower than what you got, but I do think they're going to go faster than last year. That's for sure. All right, so bonus picks. Cody, you selected P4, P11, and P16. So this is a good cross-section of our grid. Cody, I'll let you go first. What you got here?
I think I put him in this position last week as well, and he outperformed my prediction. So, but I'm still thinking George Russell, probably right on the outskirts of the podium if he doesn't get there. So I got him for P4. I've got Carlos Sainz, hopefully actually finishing the race this time. Had a little bit of bad luck in Bahrain, but I think he's going to finish just outside the points in P11. And then I've got Lance Stroll coming in P16. I'm starting to think that he used up all his good form in the first couple of races of the season. And yeah, I think we're going to see him not quite all the way at the back, but pretty far back there.
That is fair. I think a fair assessment of the Aston Martin form. So I'm going to go different in all cases. So this could be the deciding factor amongst our little competition here. So for P4, I'm going to give it to Charles Leclerc. I do think Ferrari is getting there. It's going to be very interesting to see if they are getting there here versus getting there in Bahrain. But I was very encouraged by especially what I saw race pace from them last week. P11, he's going to try to get that car as far up as he can. I don't think he's going to score points, though. I've got Fernando Alonso here. Just kind of on the outside looking in on the points, but I think it will be a better drive for him. It's a driver-esque type circuit. I feel like a lot of Suzuka vibes. I think Alonso will go a little bit better here. P16, not because of where I think he is talent-wise. It's just really more where the car is and where they are development-wise. But I got Gabriel Bortoleto. This is a tough nut to crack. This is really his first time here in Formula One machinery. Very tough nut to crack. So I do think that's where the Kick Sauber will kind of slot in. So I've got him coming home in P16. And I like this prop bet. I never thought we would actually get here 4 races,
Yeah, it's
5
weird
races
how
into a
it can change in a
season,
year.
but here we are. Our prop bet for this week is so I'm assuming this is the works team, the Red Bull racing team.
Yes, Red Bull works
not
team.
the Racing Bulls. Okay, so this is for, do we see double points for both Red Bulls this weekend? Interesting choices by both of us here. I'm going to go no. Cody, what do you say?
I also went no, and I really hope I'm wrong, but I think this is a tougher track than Bahrain, and I think that Yuki Tsunoda is probably not completely on top of this car yet. He's getting more used to it, but this can be a rough track that can punish you pretty severely if you mess up. And he even messed up last week, and got points out of it. So I think that that punishment will be a little more severe this weekend. I don't think he's going to make it into the points.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting, something to watch for, something that I would definitely look out for if they show a comparison of the wing levels, again, between what Max is doing and what Yuki's doing. Mm-hmm. Because this is such a on-the-nose track, we know Max is going to hold that thing out there and hang on for dear life. And if he crashes, he crashes. And if he takes the pole, he takes the pole. But that's what he's going to go for sure. How safe does Red Bull play it with Yuki Tsunoda? I think you're going to see now. I'm just curious. You were the one that talked about all the Red Bull upgrades. Do you know if they're bringing it for one or are they bringing it for both cars?
That I have no idea. So,
okay.
Just so we say it on here, what I read, this is not official yet. It's not like there's the F1 document has come out detailing all the upgrades that are coming. But what I've read today is that Red Bull will likely be bringing floor upgrades to this track in an attempt to help stabilize the car and make it a little more grippy in the rear, and that they're going to be bringing a thinner wing, as most teams are probably going to be doing for this race, since it has so much high-speed sections. Not quite like Monza, but we'll still see a thinner wing here. But yes, I don't know if they're doing it just on one car or both.
I would assume Max is going to get the preference. If it's only on one car, that's who's going to get it. So I understand now. This makes a lot more sense to me, especially if only one car has the upgrades on it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say no as well to this one too. Again, I'm really hoping Yuki comes to terms with this car. It'll be good for the championship, be good for Yuki, all of the above. But this is a tough nut to crack. This is going to be one of those where I think your crop of rookies are going to look a little bit more like rookies and not the experienced 6 that they've kind of shown themselves to be at certain places. I feel like you're going to see more Melbourne than Bahrain. Let's put it that way. But without the rain.
Yeah, absolutely not.
But no rain. But this is a track that can bite somebody, and it would not shock me to see some red. And the other thing is, like, if there is a crash, it's an instant red flag. Pretty much wherever.
Yeah, there's nowhere for the cars to like really go off to, so all the debris ends up right in the middle of the track.
Yeah. So we're going to watch for all of that. And when and where can you watch your F1 this weekend? If you're in the U.S., this is the closest. Other than like when the races are in this continent, this is about as close to actual times to be awake that you can get. So you can start your Friday for some, it's a holiday weekend. For others, it's not. But 9:25 a.m. is going to be on ESPNU, I think is where they're going to start it. FP2 will kick off 12:55 p.m. Eastern. Again, I would expect that to be on ESPNU. FP3 will be Saturday morning, 9:25 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. The qualifying will happen. Interesting that they're kicking us to ESPN News, but I guess that's what they're doing. Saturday, 12:55 a.m.
like 2 or 3 places, and I was like, does that sound right? That's what it says.
I guess the qualifying, well, this is the last year of the contract. This is what happens. Saturday, 12:55 p.m. Eastern. So right in the middle of your day, so that's really nice. ESPN News. Also can probably watch it on ESPN Plus on streaming, or F1 TV. Again, F1 TV, always a viable option. My personal recommendation would be to do that. But for the race on Sunday, 12:55 p.m. Eastern, so a nice in the middle of your day, like almost NASCAR-esque start times here, but on big ESPN as well. All right. So we're going to be back on Sunday night to recap all of the fun of the Jeddah Corniche circuit and what it did to this round of the F1 World Championship. We're going to make it to the end of our triple header, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll get geared up for the European season, because the early flyaways will be done, and we're going to go to Miami, we're going to go to Canada, and then we're going to really hop into the European season proper. Monaco is around in just a little under a month's time, so we got lots of racing to cover. Cody, any final thoughts before we hop into the weekend?
Just looking forward to a really nice Sunday. Sleep in a little bit, watch some Formula One, go see the family for Easter. It's going to be nice.
Yep. So a happy Easter to all of you who celebrate in advance. For Cody, it's been Andy. We'll catch you on the flip side after the Saudi Arabian GP for our review. And as always, may all your laps be fast.